So if you're thinking you may move to Olympia, today we're going to talk about the best things and the worst things. So stay tuned.
So we've both lived here for a really long time. We're realtors in the area, so we see people coming into this area. What are typically the reasons people say they want to move here?
So the 100%, without a doubt, unanimous winner of why people say they want to move here or why they like it is because it's a beautiful place, right? There's lots of greenery. If you're moving from somewhere else in the country, like you get off the plane here and it is amazing, the scenery, right? You have Mount Rainier and you have a lot of trees.
Yeah.
So people are enamored with the beauty of the area.
Yeah, I hear people say this. It's so clean here. I've never lived anywhere so clean. And what they're talking about is literally it rains and the streets get washed. Like everything gets washed. And also it's so green here. I've never seen anything so green. And it's because all the plants get watered all the time.
All right, so there's one clear reason why this is the worst place to live ever for a lot of people, right? What is it?
When people talk about leaving, almost always it's because of the weather. Like the same thing that keeps everything green and beautiful is the thing that makes people want to leave because it's so gray sometimes. It can be an endless seasonal disorder.
Yeah, and if you're curious about the weather, we did an entire video that we'll link down below. But yeah, it rains here. It's not that it rains a lot, it's just that from about November until maybe April, you might have 90% of the days where it's kind of gray and gloomy, and that's just the reality. I mean, we'll get some breaks in between where it's cold and clear, but generally speaking, people get really pissed off about the weather here.
It's dark too. That's the other thing, like several months of the year, you have the darkness thing happening.
Yeah, a lot of people will move out of the area and then they end up coming back. And it's not really the weather, right? It's one particular thing, and it's access to the amenities of the beauty, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, from Olympia, where we live, it's within 2 hours. You can literally go skiing at some of the most beautiful ski resorts in the world. And also, within 2 hours, you can be at the coast. So in the summertime, you can be at the beach playing in the water, or in the wintertime, you can be up there playing in the snow. It's pretty great. There's mountain bike trails really close by. Also, kayaking is a huge thing around here, huge. You can rent a kayak just like right down the street. Also, paddleboarding has turned into this whole thing. So buying a paddleboard for a couple $100 and just taking it out and paddleboarding all summer long, people talk about it all the time. I've done it a few times. It is so cool. So what is one thing that people complain about once they move here? Sometimes like we get our past clients or some people that we work with or whatever that moved here from out of state. What do they bitch about the most?
So you got people coming from the South, right? You got people coming from the Midwest, and the lack of options for their type of food, right? Southern food, barbecue food, severely lacking in Olympia. Like there's some restaurants that serve that, right? But they're not going to be up to snuff for those people.
Plus the authentic piece or the level of seasoning that they're used to or whatever. We're just not, we're not made for that here.
No.
And we don't know what you're talking about, by the way. We're like, that's great. What do you mean? It's fine.
We've never
We have
had
no clue what it's just not the same authenticity.
Yeah, so we've got the food, we've got all the different sort of like genres of food, however you say it, but they're not, true Southern, true barbecue, that sort of thing. So the food part is a little bit lacking, although we do have some good restaurants.
So one of the things that's great about living here in the Olympia area is our school systems are very highly regulated. So we hear this a lot as realtors. People come in with like an idea of where they want their kids to go to school, and that's one of the areas that they're very excited about. So that's something that I think is definitely a pro. If you have kids that are of school age, really great public schools.
Yeah, right in that Olympia, greater area, Tumwater. And you get outside of that though, not necessarily the case.
Yeah,
So
you want to check those ratings for sure.
You definitely have to do your homework on it if you're actually relocating here, because it can be a little bit spotty, right, in terms of the ratings. So one of the worst things about here, especially if you're in the military, is that the cost of living, the actual housing expense is higher than the national average. And so the price of the home for like what you feel like your perceived value that you're getting back is relatively high. Like that is definitely one of the worst things I feel like is about the area, especially if you're military.
Yeah, we did a whole video on this too. And if you want to go into more detail and why and how and exactly what it is, but we figured it out and we did some research and it looks like about 10% higher than the national average here. So, you know, you have great schools, you have great weather, you have great amenities, parks, all that good stuff, but then it's going to cost a little more to live here.
And you don't have anywhere to eat.
And you have to make your own food.
You have to make your own food.
Or go to a mediocre restaurant.
And that kind of, goes hand in hand with the rental costs too. So whether you're buying a house, whether you're renting a house, it does run hot, above average. And so right now, as we stand or sit here today, the average home, residential home in the area is going to run you about $525,000. And rent costs have kind of gotten high, right? So what does somebody pay right now for, let's say they're coming into the area, they need a 3-bedroom house, not an apartment. Apartment's running like $17,000, maybe $2,000 a month. So house costs.
$2,300, $2,400, $2,800 a month. It depends on size and all the details, but it's pushing $3,000 a month, depending on how big it is.
Exactly. So a lot of factors come into play when we're talking about monthly payment. It's, are you going to put money down or you're not going to put money down? But just, be like working with like a 3,000 plus budget if you're looking at a house.
Yeah. So the one thing I will say to like counter this con is the investment benefit here is almost always just guaranteed. So we've been here and worked here for years in the real estate market, and I would say, buying a home here is a pretty safe bet.
Yeah.
So other parts of the countries, I think they have more swinging as far as like highs and lows in the market, whereas because of our proximity to the military base and just the livability in this area and how beautiful it is, and we're always one of those areas that people want to come and move to, I feel like investment-wise, it's a great opportunity.
Yeah, so what the country is experiencing right now is really coming out of the COVID times, right? There were some places that really exploded for growth, and those places that really exploded are now seeing, like almost like when people say the market's crashing, right? Like market is
just a normal decline,
yeah, the market's crashing in those areas. Here, we've actually maintained positive numbers. So any area pretty much here has actually in the last 12 months appreciated, which means if it can last that,
right.
Then going forward, it looks pretty good, right?
So I think another big, huge pro around here is just proximity. So if you live in Olympia and you need to use an international airport, we have 2 within 2 hours. SeaTac's only really an hour away, and then you can get to Portland within 2 hours very easily. So you've got options as far as traveling. And then the other thing is transportation locally is really great. We have an amazing bus system.
Yeah, the fact that it's free is cool, right? And then, a lot of the times when I'm looking for flights, because I live right here locally, and when we've got 2 options, it's pretty cool because sometimes the flights out of SeaTac will be a lot higher price than Portland, and I can basically just spend an extra 45 minutes driving down there and get a much cheaper fare. So it's nice to have that option. So one of the worst things about living in Olympia, I can tell you, is from October to about April, and we talked about the weather already, so I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but when I'm looking for things to do with the kids, it's like we're stuck with the indoor stuff. And there's not a lot of cool things to do. Like there's only so many times you can go to the movies. They like to go to the trampoline park, which I don't like because it seems like every time the kids go to the trampoline park, 2 days later they have a cold.
Or somebody gets hurt, like sprained ankle, and I have kids in sports, so it's like, really? We did that, and now you're busted for 2 weeks or whatever. Like, it's not great, but yes.
So we're kind of confined indoors a lot, from November-ish to April, and it sucks. It really sucks.
So you have to get more hardcore. You gotta put your rain gear on, and your boots on, and your hats, your gloves, I pretend I own all the things. I put them in my garage and they sit there and we never use them. But, I used to do it in my 20s. I think my bones are cold now.
So there is stuff, right?
There's
all kinds of activities.
And there's hardcore people out there sometimes hiking and stuff in the rain. I know they do it.
The issue is once you do those 5 or 6 things, now you got to do those 5 or 6 things all over again. So all I'm saying is you get tapped out on things to do.
So if you have a business idea for something fun to do in the rain, this is a great place to come and invest.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. Yeah. All right. So if you're watching this video, one of the things you're probably hoping that we say, because you maybe have heard about it because of the state we're in, but yeah, there's homeless people here, right? So I don't think it's one of the worst things about Olympia, though. I mean, the homeless problem here is really in certain areas, and it's always going to be an issue in certain places.
It's just sad, and I think every community has to deal with it, and it's a constant battle. It's always something that's happening. I think the sad thing for me is how the weather shifts so hard here, and then it's heartbreaking to see, you know, in your community.
And it becomes this polarizing thing where everybody wants the problem solved, but nobody seems to be stepping up and really doing anything about it, all sides of the coin. And so, yeah, when you drive through Olympia, there's areas of the town where you're going to see homeless folks.
For us, one of the reasons why we dedicate so many resources, time, effort, and energy towards the Family Support Center here in Olympia is because it does pull heartstrings for us. I mean, we sell homes for a living. We want to see everyone have a place to live. That's part of what we do all the time, is put people in homes. So if you haven't heard of the Family Support Center, check them out online. They're amazing. They do great work.
Yeah, I mean, and what is their intention? What did they actually do?
They are the intake center for all homelessness in Thurston County. So they literally touch every ounce of it.
Well, and it's not that they intake homeless, it's that they actually, their goal is really to prevent people
They do
being homeless.
all the things. So they help with people that are struggling with rent. So before they even reach that stage, they're helping. They also direct people to the resources that they fit categories, so they counsel them and help and tell them where to go. And then they actually do provide housing for lots and lots of people in Thurston County too.
So yeah, in the last several years, we've actually chosen this organization to support. And so we've donated a lot of the income and the proceeds we've made as a company directly towards their foundation, because if you can prevent people from being on the streets, that's what we should all do. I mean, everybody wants to complain once somebody's on the streets, because we can argue about how they got there, right? We can argue that they're all drug addicts or things like that, but the reality is they're not all drug addicts. And there are people that don't deserve to be on the streets. And so we've tried to help the situation as much as we can without enabling, you know, drug addicts to be homeless. But yeah, Family Support Center, great thing. Check it out online.
So the good news is, even all this down stuff that we've been talking about, in general, it's a very safe community. Like, I've raised 2 kids here. I've lived here since I was in like 6th grade, so a really long time. We won't talk about the years, but it's been a long time. So I can say it's one of those communities where you feel like you can walk around and walk your dog at night, and you don't have to really worry about it. Obviously, check crime stats, do all your own homework on areas and neighborhoods and all that good stuff. But generally speaking, it's an amazing place to live.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about the greater area, all of the encompassing part of Olympia. I mean, don't confuse this if you're watching this video about downtown Olympia, right? Like downtown Seattle, downtown Los Angeles, downtown wherever is gonna have its fair share of like where you don't feel safe or whatever. But the reality is the neighborhoods around here, I actually personally live just a little bit to the north in DuPont. It's one of the safest places to live in America, you know, and that's the story around a lot of the suburbs outside of downtown, right? Like if you look up the ratings, it is generally a place where you can bring your family and feel safe.
One of the worst things, I think too, it goes along with the lack of things to do in the rain, but this is like a lack of things to do in general at night.
Yeah.
There's a lack of decent hotels. So like there's no nightlife, there's nowhere to really, there's a couple, but very few like
you can go party.
date night things to do. It's like, oh, what should we do? Like it takes a while to figure out. We've done videos on this too, just to try to help people out, because it's a thing. Like you hear it all the time. Our friends are complaining. So we're like, oh, we should figure this out. Well, then when we go to do it, it's like, oh, there's like 4 things.
Yeah, yeah.
But also hotels, like if you have family and friends coming from out of state, it's like, where should you stay? And you're like,
The Comfort Inn.
it's pretty tough. Yeah, there's not a lot.
So no real 4-ish, 5-star-ish luxury accommodations, right? There's no like super amazing hotel to go stay at. You have to go north and go to Tacoma. And even Tacoma only has 1 or 2. And so you really have to go to Seattle or Bellevue. So no like luxury property accommodations for people, especially like also houses to people that fly in and they're like, where should I stay? And I'm like, here's the thing.
Tacoma.
If you were a hotel snob, you are not gonna be happy with any of my recommendations anywhere near Olympia or Tacoma, really, unless there's some token Airbnb that I don't really know about.
Right, and that's the other thing. They all get swooped up because there is such a housing shortage here. We are so close to the military base here. There's like some Airbnbs, but it's tough. It's tough to find, and they get, sucked up by people that are moving here.
Yeah, you cannot go into Hotwire and check like 4 or 5 stars. You will get 0 results. Like there isn't a classification for that, right? You have to go all the way pretty much to Seattle, unless it's like the Hotel Murano or even the Emerald Queen Casino Hotel in Tacoma. That's pretty much your best bet. There's the Silver Cloud on the water in Tacoma. That's pretty nice. But other than that, you're kind of stuck with just a regular, a little boring hotel, which is fine because it does fill the need for a lot of the military that are transitioning in and out. Yeah, and the nightlife, here's the thing. You can go bar hop in Olympia and have an amazing time. There's some really cool bars, not necessarily dive bars, but there's some of those too. But you're not gonna have like a nightclub really, per se, right? Like you're not gonna go pop bottles in Olympia. What you're gonna do is drink some beers with some cool locals, is what you're gonna do. And you're probably gonna have the time of your life, but it's not gonna be a luxury VIP experience. So we just want to be clear on that. So if you saw this video and you're looking for more resources, maybe you are moving to the area, or maybe you're just local and you want to see our take on it, but look in the link in the description. There's going to be pros and cons of Olympia, date night in Olympia or Yelm, so a lot of resources there for you. Or you can check out movemetowashington.com, where we've got a lot of information as well for you.